And isn't it so interesting how we have these systems and support structures in place for our work and our careers? Why don't we apply the same principles at home? Someone came to you at work, in a work environment, male, female, whatever, and said, I feel overwhelmed. Well, what would you do first? We live in a society where we need both incomes. We, men and women, need to work. However, what hasn't shifted is how we manage the expectations and the mental load of what that looks like and the roles and responsibilities within that. Unfortunately, what you see is so many women leaving the workplace because of a lot of the challenges that they face. And that's such a loss. That's such a loss to companies because so how do you structure your life around your core priorities?
Have you got any advice that you would give to, let's say, women in their 20s who are in the aviation world, very male dominated?
First, I would say, wouldn't it just be wonderful if maternity policies were fair, that shared parental responsibility was an expectation, a standard of excellence in the workplace? And so then you get those women back in. Just because you're sitting at a desk from 9 to 5 doesn't mean you're being productive.
Yeah, very true.
And that is where I believe that, you know, the whole fundamental shift is that entrepreneurial mindset where you get paid on output deliverables, not on bums on seat hours worked, because...
Let's talk about menopause.
Let's get the definition of menopause clear.
Yes.
And this was going to blow your mind.
Well, Wendy, welcome. It's nice to have you on the podcast. And I'm really excited to have you on today. We've been speaking off camera about some things that we feel quite passionate about. And as the audience knows, we create these podcasts specifically for people in the aviation world. And I'm excited today to talk to you about something I think is something that we need to focus on more, which is women within the workplace and some of the challenges that they have. And also from a guy's perspective, I think I'm really keen to find out how can I best support, you know, my women colleagues. And so before we dive into that, though, why don't you just introduce yourself?
Well, thank you so much for having me. Delighted to be here. And yes, so Wendy Griffith, my company is the Thriving Women Project. And the concept of the brand is all around helping women to thrive in all avenues of their life, looking at health, lifestyle, because that feeds so much into it, as well as business and careers. So it's holistic because we're never just one thing. We're multifaceted, especially as women. And there's all sorts of different challenges that feed into that for women. And like anything, when you look at something, you look at difficulties that people might experience, it's always going to be layered, isn't it? That's life. It's all about the layers and the seasons. And so really, you know, while someone might come to you with overwhelm in a particular area, or they think, I need help with my business or whatever it is, but actually when you layer into it, you can see that there's habits of health and there's lifestyle triggers and there's all sorts of elements. So that's why for me, it's never just about one thing. It's about everything working together holistically.
Very good. So just at the start of the podcast, you've explained a little bit about why maybe women should continue watching. But what about the men who are watching? Because I know we've got a large majority of men in aviation. So why is it important for us to just hang on in here? What are you going to give to us that we could actually take away that might just help us with the ladies in our lives?
Brilliant. Well, firstly, goes without saying, women account for 51% of the global population. So if anything, you're outnumbered. And it's important to understand both sides. And I think nowadays women have more of a platform for that and more of a platform for understanding. But I know for myself, having come from a corporate background that was very male dominated in the IT industry, it's recognizing the challenges and the complexities, but actually, regardless of that, the potential that you have when working with women. And we know that men and women are designed to work symbiotically and bring out the best and strengths of each other. And actually, it's that, you know, you look at that male energy, that female energy, that feminine energy, and why it's so important to bring that into the workplace. Unfortunately, what you see is so many women leaving the workplace because of a lot of the challenges that they face. And that's such a loss. That's such a loss to companies because you need that female perspective in the workplace.
Really?
You need that energy. And so it is important, but there are challenges.
Yeah.
And there's challenges for men, of course. But today we are talking about women.
Yes. So, Wendy, before we get started, why don't you just give us a bit of your background?
Sure.
And what's led you being here?
So, background for me, I've touched on is a corporate background. You know, I did what you're supposed to do and went to university and got my degree and got another postgrad. Clinical and organizational psychology.
Okay.
And then I got my postgraduate in marketing management. And that was, you know, they work so well together because I use it so much. I still reference my textbooks like a little nerd that I am day in and day out. But essentially for me, it was going into my corporate field and, you know, working my way up the corporate ladder as you're conditioned to do. But then it was that balance of, okay, I do want to start a family. What does that look like? When is the right time to step out of my career for a period? What does that look like? How can I support that? All the things that came and challenges that came with that, as well as managing burnout as a result of being in a very heavily male-dominated IT industry and just getting to the point where it was like, oh, this doesn't light me up. This doesn't give me joy anymore. Yeah. So actually at 31 years old, making that brave, stupid decision to walk away from corporate because it just wasn't ticking the boxes for me anymore. Sure. And actually setting up my own company, which I've been running now since 2014, just there's a bit of overlap there. And really it's just evolved from there. Yeah. So have that corporate background, but then also a significant amount of time running a business.
Excellent. So Wendy, I think one of the things that I've thought probably quite a lot about is, the pressures on guys, on men within the workplace. I think we're predominantly, most men that I meet, we've kind of come from the era of man up and crack on and, have the stiff upper lip. And that probably dictates how a lot of us kind of live our work lives. But then I've also thought, and within my role as a trainer, facilitator, specifically around human factors, thinking about, stress, fatigue, how that affects us in the workplace. I've thought I meet a lot of people every day, and I'm meeting more women in the workplace. And I know that from conversations we have in the classroom, actually we deal with things slightly different at times, but more importantly, there are different pressures on us. So I know for me, the pressure of, I feel the pressure, whether it's anybody's put this expectation on me or not, of making sure I'm bringing the money home each month. When I'm at work, I can pretty much focus on work. I also know, and I've had to be mindful of being married for the last 17 years and with 3 children, that I've had to be very mindful of if one of the children is sick. Sometimes my mind can default to the whole, oh, it's okay because Sophie will take care of my sick child. And I have to catch myself because I was raised in a family where mum stayed at home, looked after us 3 boys. So should we speak about this for a bit?
Yeah,
this is a big topic.
That is the real dynamic and the fundamental shift that we've seen in this generation of women now.
Yeah.
And historically, personally, my mother worked full time and, my parents split up when I was 11 years old but my mom had always had to work. And so I always had that model, an example of a working mom. So it was all I ever knew and understood. Whereas her mum was a stay-at-home mum and did all the volunteering and worked for the church and, did all that good stuff. And then there's, this tension now where actually very few are afforded the luxury of making the decision for one of you to stay at home, be it a man or a woman.
Yep.
I'm loving seeing how many guys are staying at home now. Yep. The house husbands, the stay-at-home dads. But the reality is that we live in a society where we need both incomes. Men and women need to work. However, what hasn't shifted is how we, manage the expectations and the mental load of what that looks like and the roles and responsibilities within that and just how you navigate that.
Yeah. So let's just stop on that point for a minute because there's something that's come into my mind. Thing that's come into my mind is most managers in aviation, certainly within the aircraft maintenance world, will be male. So we might not even be thinking about some of these challenges that the women in our teams have. So what would you say that we could do as male managers within the workplace? How could we be more mindful of what some of the women on our team are probably going through or having to juggle and may not even say out loud? Because often in class, we'll talk about mum guilt, the fact that I may not be spending so much time with my child because I need to be in the workplace. And then I've asked often the guys in the room, how many of us have dad guilt? And they're like, what does that mean?
I know.
We don't even think about it.
Isn't that so interesting though?
Yeah.
That subconscious, conscious pressure that is applied. It's the same when people say, oh, is your husband babysitting? Or no, he's parenting. It's his child. It's 50% his child, I can assure you.
I'll often say I can't come out tonight because I've got to look after the children.
Yeah.
They are my children.
Exactly. So taking a step back from that before you start speaking to women in the workplace, it's actually asking those guys to think about their partners. If they're female, what challenges are you having in a conversation? Are you even aware of the mental load that often women carry? So a lot of men will carry the mental load of the workplace, but women are carrying the mental load of working in the workplace and all of that goes with that, as well as the mental load at home.
That's really good.
And it's thinking about actually my wife, my girlfriend, whoever it is, what are they managing on top of their workload? It really is a trigger point for me when I'll hear dads, and it's great. I love being here in Norfolk. A lot of dads are on the school run. They're doing the pickups. They're standing in the park, chatting to the mums, getting involved. And it's when the men will say nonchalantly, like, oh, I don't know about that, or I don't use the school app system, or I don't know what's going on with that. And I think, how can you not know? Why does that fall to your wife, who in many cases is actually the breadwinner? So all you've got to do is get up in the morning, get yourself ready, go to work, do your work, come home, and you have that clear space to focus. What about the woman who's like getting the kids ready for school, getting them off to school, making sure they've booked the school lunches or packed the school lunches, getting off to work, doing the job, then rushing out the door for the school run and getting the looks of, oh yeah, you're part-timer over there, or whatever it is to get, and then ferrying them off. Oh, do they have the gymnastics kit? Have they got that? Oh, I've got to book that I've got to get that consent form back. All that mental load, getting home, dinner, prep, is there food in the fridge? What's for, it's all that, what should be shared responsibility, that I'm still shocked at how many men are just assuming that's a woman's job when they are also working either full-time, part-time, whatever it is. And many women will actually joke, especially, in the school holidays, that they go to work for their break.
Yeah, I mean, I'm chuckling a little bit because I'm pleased the table's between us. I probably do fall into that camp a little bit without necessarily thinking about it. But I think that's the issue.
Okay if you've actually had that conversation with your partner in a respectful manner that has shared the load and assumes the responsibilities are shared between you.
Yeah.
But it's when assumptions are made and men consciously or unconsciously are just assuming that's the woman's job to take care of and have not stopped to think, no, but hang on, my wife, my partner, my girlfriend, whatever, is working full-time as well. So how does that look?
So can you help us then, us as in the male population, how would we start that conversation?
I mean, it depends on a practical level. It just depends on what your personality is. But I would say certainly just that recognition. Most of the time, well, this applies to anyone in life. Like, people just want to be heard, don't they? They just want to be listened to. And for a lot of women sometimes, and I don't know if you get this in your relationship, where I'll say to my husband, right, I'm about to vent. I don't need solutions. Just let me talk. Because women verbally process out their frustrations and the information.
And as a mechanic or engineer,
and you just want to fix.
We've already got
Don't try and fix my problems.
We've got the 10 things you should do, and then your problems go away.
Well, great. Because if that is your brain, then you can take the brain dump that can come out of your partner and put that into automation systems and ways to help. So it's actually my husband and I have a marriage meeting once a week, and sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's half an hour, but we actually get together. It's often snatched, lunch break, whatever it is, brain dump, what's going on this week?
That's really
Who's assuming what responsibilities, roles? That's not date night. That's not anything fun. That is logistics.
Yeah.
That's we both work, we both respect. What have you got going on this week? What are you wanting to achieve? Have you got and I want to be aware, has my husband got a big deadline? Has he got stress in his work situation? Have I got a busy week? How can we best support each other in that flex? But on that baseline level, it's divvying up the roles.
Yeah, really good.
And I've seen so many things online where, if you had to actually put a spreadsheet together of everything that a woman is juggling in her head and actually get that all down, like what are the things that need to happen? What night's bin night? What has to be done? What, when does washing need to be done so that uniform's ready for all these innocuous things, but they're not, because it's taking up space in your partner's heads.
Yeah, really good.
And so it's saying, okay, what are all the things? What are all the things that we have to factor in our life? Because then women are also doing the social calendar. They're probably the one messaging your mother for you because you don't, keeping them updated on the WhatsApp. Here are the pictures of, the school recital, whatever it is. And so it's managing that.
Yeah.
And then playing to your strengths, saying, well, I'm actually really good at that. So I'll do that. And actually assigning responsibilities, but then also being willing to sort of flex and cover each other. But it's not just assuming all that stuff is getting done, because by who?
Yeah.
What fairies flying in and filling the fridge? And then also the automations and systems that you can apply that's going to make your life easier. So people find it astounding. They always tell me how good my husband is. And I almost look at them a bit strangely and think, good. This is baseline minimum expectations being met, because why would it all fall to me? And so, yes, he does our online grocery shop on a Tuesday night, and we have a delivery slot that is booked in every Wednesday between 5 and 6. And he assumes that role, and there's certain things that we divvy up because we also play to each other's strengths. I'm better at the social calendar, logistics, organizing who's doing what. So it's just really actually having that conversation, like, what have you got going on?
Yeah, it's really good.
What are all the things that, or even just listen, let them verbally process, but then note that stuff down and think, well, what system could we come up? What structure could we put in place? If you're that mechanical brain, that is going to take the stuff out your partner's headspace. That is it. Someone came to you at work, in a work environment, male, female, whatever, and said, I feel overwhelmed. Well, what would you do first? How would you attack that?
Sit down and listen. Give them space to talk it out.
And then, practically,
I would ask them what they would like to do or how I could help.
Note those things down, how you can support them.
Yeah. Tell them what I think the priority. If I was their manager, I would ask them, and I've done this. I've gone to my boss before and said, I've got all these tasks. I've put down how much time it's going to take to complete all these tasks. It's not manageable. So please, can you tell me what your priority is? And it's amazing. I'd never done that before. But I'd been living with feeling overwhelmed for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And as soon as I went to him and said, what are your priorities? Which I think is a really good tip. Just asking your boss what his priorities are. All of a sudden he went, oh yeah, that one and that one and that one. So I went away and focused on those ones and got those done, and he was happy.
And isn't it so interesting how we have these systems and support structures in place for our work and our careers? Why don't we apply the same principles at home? And I think when you are part of an organization, working in a big company, whatever it is, and I suppose this is the advantage being an entrepreneur, being my own business owner, is I've trained myself to think like a CEO, but a CEO across my whole life. And I really want to challenge listeners to think that you are the CEO of your life. Work is one element of your life. So how do you structure your life around your core priorities? And people say their families are so important, but how they spend their time and how they support their home life doesn't speak to those values.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's the soundbite. Everyone's, family first. But as a man, are you putting your family first? Truly, because you've listened to your partner, you've understood the mental load, and you're willing to share it, however that looks.
That's really good. Yeah, I don't know whether we do. I think we can become so focused on, it's probably innate, we need to be the one who shoulders, bringing in the income, regardless of the fact that our partner is probably also bringing in equal, if not more, than we are. And I think we shoulder that potentially quietly. And if there's, I don't know, maybe lose our job, or it seems like we could, or there's financial hardship, I think a lot of times we just shut up and shoulder it and bear it without necessarily talking. I liked what you said about talking though. And I know I asked the question about how does managers or leaders better support women in the workplace. Actually, for those managers and leaders who are married, that's kind of going to be a reflection of how they have those conversations at home with their partners.
Absolutely.
Which starts with self-awareness.
Absolutely.
Which I think is lacking. I think we need to continually develop self-awareness. I know for me, I really like that psychological model that talks about how our beliefs create behaviors. Behaviors produce outcomes, and outcomes reinforce our underlying beliefs. I really like that. For so long, I've focused on, if I don't like a particular behavior of myself, I've focused on, well, change the behavior. Just focus on change the behavior. If I find it difficult, just try harder. And actually, I've realized, stop focusing on the behavior. If I know a behavior needs to change, look at the why. Look at what is the belief I have. So I mentioned earlier about, Sophie, my wife, if one of our children is sick, I would probably automatically, without even overthinking it, just think, oh, Sophie's going to take care of that. But then I challenged myself and said, well, but why? Why am I leaving that just to
as
Sophie?
much as if they're at school, whose number do the school have on speed dial?
Oh yeah, definitely Sophie's. But why?
Isn't that interesting?
But why? And it will absolutely go back to my family setup when I was young. But now I'm aware of that.
And that's fine if you've had the conversation and you've agreed that.
Yes. And I'm more aware of that now. And I can say, well, actually, is that a belief I'm happy with, or is it going to be better to challenge that belief for a more healthier relationship with my wife?
Where women stuff it down is because there's this untold pressure and expectation, and they're not being heard. They're not being seen. People just want to be seen.
Yeah.
Like, it might be that it can't change necessarily in that current structure of your lives, but just to actually be seen and acknowledged. And here's the $1 million idea: thanked.
Why is that important? What do you mean by thanked?
Thanked for the
working,
contribution, the acknowledgement of, it's not just your job that you do or your part-time job that you do. It's everything behind the scenes. It's all the other things to keep things flowing, because actually, if you think, just sit there one day as a man and think about all the elements in your life that have to run and function, like the clothes that you're wearing at work. How did those get clean? How did they get in your cupboard? The food that you eat, or the lunch you brought to work, or how did that all happen? Who did it? Who made that? Who facilitated that?
Probably your partner.
And did you say thank you?
Good question.
Thank you for your clean kecks.
Does that make that much of a difference? Because I know there's some people, I had this same conversation with my boss once when I was employed. I said, you never thank me. And he said, why should I thank you? It's your job. But words of affirmation.
I would love you to say that to your partner. That's your job.
Words of affirmation are quite high up the
Absolutely. Well, it does depend on love languages. And 100%. So if your wife's love language, partner's love language is gifts, well, little gift every now and then, randomly, a bunch of flowers, not just on their birthday, to say, thank you for all you do.
Does it make that much of a difference?
Well, everybody wants to be seen and loved.
It's one way of being seen. Okay, let's bring it into the workplace. Male managers, male leaders. How can we better be more mindful of some of the challenges we've already started to speak about?
Well, it's understanding, looking at the female that you're managing, and do they have kids? Do they have elderly parents? Because I think we're talking a lot about kids, but actually let's talk about other challenges. Are they fostering? Are they supporting, whatever it is? Like,
maybe special educational needs at home.
Absolutely. Do that. Neurodiverse child. What's going on in their life? And I think all that takes is, and it sounds obvious, but do you know your employee? Do you know enough? You don't have to know all the information. Do you know what their kids' names are? Do you know if they're married? Do you know? Yeah,
that's good.
What their interests are? Do you connect, or is it just that your employees are just your doers? Do you care? And that sometimes is a skill, because especially if that's not something that's necessarily coming naturally to you as a leader, but actually people will work the hardest for people that they feel seen and cared for and appreciated by.
Did you, when you were working in the corporate world, how seen did you feel? Did you have male manager or?
I had male and female managers, and I can tell you categorically that my female managers were the worst.
What made them the worst?
No kids. They had no kids.
Okay. And did you at the time?
I didn't, but I wanted kids.
Okay.
And I was looking at how they were treating other women who had kids and were working.
Why do you think that was?
Ask any woman who has worked and had a child and those few months that after their child, because, you know, or leading up to going off on mat leave, it's all about when you're coming back, what's that going to look like? And you're coming from a completely different paradigm until you have children, and then you go, oh, okay. No one prepares you for it. No one prepares you for that shift hormonally, like mentally, everything. And it's not to say that your work isn't important to you, but there is such a huge shift in how you are fundamentally as a person. And it's finding what that new normal looks like.
So the female managers that you just referenced a moment ago, you said they were worse than the male managers. Was that before you had?
Well, a lot of the male managers had kids.
Oh, okay.
But they also recognized that they had nannies or wives at home, stay-at-home mums, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But a lot of the women naturally in those director level positions were women that didn't have kids and had chosen to prioritize their careers. Interestingly now, so many of them have gone on to have children
later on.
And it's been fun to watch the journey on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Do you think they were jealous that you were going to go off and have children early?
Well, they didn't know that.
Okay.
They didn't know that. But people can make assumptions based on your age and where you're angling towards. But then you've also got to play that game in the corporate space. You got to play it. You got to hold that really close to your chest.
Why? What's the belief there that women hold?
The belief, I mean, I can't speak for all women, but the belief for me was that if anyone thought that I wanted to go off and make babies, that I wasn't serious about my career and that I wouldn't get promoted and that I'd be overlooked because, they had to factor in my maternity leave. That's going to be a pain. What are we going to do when that's going on?
Yeah.
And is she going to come back? And is she going to come back and want part-time hours?
Yeah. So how could...
Let's not get into the legalities on that.
Not the legalities,
and managers actually feel awkward about, because you're not, you know, especially if someone is pregnant and you're having those conversations with their manager, there's all sorts of rules and regulations around what you can and can't say.
Yeah.
But I'm talking even before they're pregnant.
So there might be some unconscious bias by male managers who might be looking to promote people. So how do we work through that? How do male managers work through that?
Ask yourself, do I have unconscious bias? Just as much as any conversation about bias that exists in the workplace right now. Do I have bias?
And then challenge it and ask what your beliefs are behind that. And then
absolutely
look further into it.
That's your job, to develop yourself, to understand as a leader, as a manager, and really understand what is fundamentally sitting under here, my belief system. Because that's informing so much. You know, if you consider that 95% of the day-to-day actions that we take are subconsciously driven, challenge yourself on what your subconscious beliefs are. You might not even be aware how much that's impacting.
Yeah, that's really good.
But yes, for me, it was being concerned about whether I'd be considered serious about my career. It's very confusing for women. So confusing. Go and get your degrees and work your way up the corporate ladder. Then you got to factor in having kids, because biologically, we're not seahorses. You know, the men can't do it in this case. So it's a very strategic decision to go, okay, so when can I do this? When can we afford to do this? How does that look? What are we going to do? I mean, obviously nowadays, as of 2025. There are so many more support systems that exist. And when you think about the innovations around flexible working and shared parental responsibility.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, when I had my daughter coming up for 9 years ago, shared responsibility, parental leave, that didn't exist. Wasn't even a factor.
Yeah.
My husband got 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What's he going to do with that to help me?
Yeah.
So I knew in that space I was in at the time, it was on me. If we wanted a family, which I knew, like I knew from my core, from as long as I had conscious thought that I wanted to be a mother, it was on me. It was, and I felt that burden of how I was going to figure it out. And I actually was very proactive around it and actually sought out setting up my own online business and work in that. I remember going to an amazing talk in London, and it was titled, it was actually run by Stylist Magazine, which was my favorite on a Wednesday handout on the tube. But it was called Power Maternity Leave. And it was about women who'd actually set up their global brands and businesses while on maternity leave because they, at the time, couldn't go back into that 9 to 5 days a week concept. And it was how they could create that. And that really inspired me to actually leave my corporate career before I even had kids. Because I was like, well, I got to put, a lot of women will, have kids and then go, okay, now what is this going to look like? Oh, wait, nursery. Oh, that's expensive. Wow. Okay. How's that going to look? How are we going to share this out? They're not thinking about that before they go off.
Yeah.
And then might not go back to work or might need to go back part-time. And then it's like, well, how's this going to look?
So have you got any advice that you would give to, let's say, women in their 20s who are in the aviation world, very male dominated? I mean, what advice would you give out of everything you've just said?
First, I would say, look at your contract.
For what purpose?
To see what your MAT coverage looks like.
Okay, so
let's start at a really practical level.
Sure. So if they're looking
like,
to become
what
mothers.
is your maternity policy? Is there a maternity policy? What are you going to get paid for how long and what? Because then practically you can see financially what decisions you need to make there and what that looks like.
Yeah, that's good.
And actually then get your partner to check theirs and understand, has the parental shared responsibility, flexible working, etc., fed into his? Are you going to be able to do this together? Have that conversation, actually plot it out, be logistical with it and go, okay, so would you be prepared to stay at home for 3 months, 6 months? What is that? Can we share that? Are we going to share this? Who earns more money? Like, how are we going to do this?
Yep.
Before you even get into, well, what could other things look like? Because actually, nowadays, with a lot of the support in place, you could share it out between you, but you're going to need to start saving to backfill that loss of income for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then if that's not viable, but whoever's going to decide to stay at home or for that period, or maybe you do want to take use it as an opportunity to take a bit of a career break and then pivot into something else, well, then that's when you can start putting the plans in place for what that might look like.
Yeah.
But isn't it sad that we even have to think about that? Wouldn't it just be wonderful if maternity policies were fair, that shared parental responsibility was an expectation, a standard of excellence in the workplace?
Yeah.
And so then you get those women back in. There's always a joke that there is no better employee than you can have than a working mother.
Yeah, why? Because I've just had that in my mind as you were talking. I was thinking,
because there is no messing.
Brings.
There's no messing.
Yeah.
They are they've literally done a whole day's work before they got there at 9. And they're not standing around chatting, pontificating at the water cooler. They are head down, often because they're either on a 3-day week or a 4-day week. And I always say to women, don't even bother with a 4-day week, because you're going to be expected to do 5 days of work and get paid for 4. Rather do 3 days and have the 2 days and split it that way, or just do 5 days or flex it now because you can do your hours.
Okay.
And what does that look like? And they are focused. They are finding solutions. Also, just give problem solving to a working mum who's navigated a punami incident on the way to work, to drop off at nursery, has pivoted course, has, done all the things. and the project management skills involved in the logistics of a nursery drop, getting to work on time, packed lunches, all the things that have happened.
Yeah, really good.
I mean, they're your best workers.
I think it's, and you kind of touched on it just there, and we spoke earlier about mental health briefly. I think it's just having that care for another person, isn't it? It's not, so if you're a manager, I think a lot of managers are probably very good at managing, but they're not like managing work and people to do work, but less good at managing the interpersonal.
I love the managers who, and a lot of managers are like this now. They'll say, you text in, I'm running late, I'm stuck in traffic, school drop, whatever it is, my child's sick today. Not a problem. I know you'll get the work done.
Yeah, that's great. That's where we need to be.
That's where we need to be, all of us. Like, it doesn't matter. The work will get done. Just because you're sitting at a desk from 9 to 5 doesn't mean you're being productive.
Yeah, very true.
And that is where I believe that, the whole fundamental shift is that entrepreneurial mindset where you get paid on output, deliverables, not on bums on seat, hours worked, because actually you could have somebody come in and they're working school hours, 9:30, 2:30, but they're getting more work done than your 30-something or 20-something that sat there for 8 hours. Clock watching. Imagine if we were all just paid in the world on our output. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Because then it wouldn't matter where you are, what you're doing, how long you work.
All right, let's talk about menopause. Is that the right way to talk about menopause? So this is a subject which I've had a very brief conversation with you about, and also another friend of mine about, but we've been meaning to do some sort of podcast on this for a long time, because I know it's a big thing, I believe, in the workplace for women. I probably don't know much about it, if I'm honest, and probably most of my male audience have not got a clue, apart from what they've maybe observed going on at home, but dependent then on what,
or not knowing what that looks like,
not knowing what it looks like, and not even knowing how to have that conversation. Like, are you on the menopause at the moment? Is probably not the right way to.
No. Okay. So why this is important, coming back to what we spoke about at the beginning, because regardless, this is going to affect someone in your life. Your wife, your partner, your sister, whatever it is, it's going to affect a woman in your life. So whether it's relating to workplace or interpersonal, sit up and take notice, because let's get the definition of menopause clear.
Yes.
And this was going to blow your mind. Menopause, the definition, is the one day where you have not had your period for more than 12 months. I'll just let that sink in.
Yeah, it's still sinking.
Okay, so that's the definition.
Yeah. Not had your period
one day.
More than one.
For more than 12 months.
Okay.
So you've not had a period in 12 months.
Oh, okay. So no more mood swings.
No, not necessarily. So that's the definition of menopause.
Yeah.
One day. But everything that comes before it is what's classed as perimenopause.
So that previous 12 months of not having periods?
Well, perimenopause can last anywhere between 5, 10, 15 years prior to that one day of menopause.
So how does somebody know if they're in perimenopause?
We'll talk about it in a sec.
Okay.
Anything after that one day of menopause is postmenopause.
Which is...
And the problem is that people are classing all that period of time under the one umbrella of menopause.
Okay.
But we're dealing with very different things
at
those different stages.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into perimenopause, because that is something that is an area of specialism for me and something I'm personally experiencing, is that I just want to tell you this one statistic that blew my mind and shocked me to my core, which is that when you actually look at the statistics of the highest rate of suicide in women, it actually corresponds with the time frame and age period of the average age of menopause of women in this country, which in the UK is 51 to 52.
Okay.
So that's the average. So average, and obviously you've got outliers, you've got extremes, you've got 1 in 100 women who will be in menopause by the age of 40.
In menopause, you mean?
As in they'll be menopause, as in they've not had a bleed, or they'll be in clinical menopause where they've perhaps had a hysterectomy or had some situation where they are now classed as you are menopause because you are now no longer having a period.
Okay. Which is premenopause.
Which is premenopause, yes.
Okay.
In terms of the actual definition.
So why the highest rate of suicide within that period?
Well, a number of factors, but a lot of them are to do, well, it's hormonally. So let's just talk about what's going on in a woman's body that men don't even have to even factor or think about. So within that whole sort of menopause, peri, post, all of that, what the three key hormones at play, and men have one of these as well, or we all have same hormones, but is testosterone.
Yep.
Which everyone actually thinks is a very male-dominated thing, but women actually have a lot of testosterone, would you believe?
Okay.
The other hormones at play are estrogen and progesterone. Those are your core hormones. And then there's sort of other things that you factor in, cortisol, which is your adrenaline hormone, etc. Serotonin, your happiness hormone, dopamine for motivation, all these kind of things. But let's just talk about the three core things. So what's actually happening is they start to decline. But at various points and different things and factors. And so men are just baselining here the whole way through life. And women suddenly start to hit a period where things start to fluctuate. Now, why that's relevant is estrogen is linked to things like your energy and your, even things like, your muscles, your joints, that type of thing as well. So it's physiological, but as well as linked to things like anxiety. And because, so much of what's going on chemically is a hormonal imbalance. And then progesterone is your sleep hormone, like that's it's not the sleep hormone, but it's helping with things like sleep, etc. So now as a woman, those hormones are fluctuating. Testosterone, your sex drive, all of that. And that's where men are like, whoop, I just said the word. And this is where you need to pay attention, because this is where a lot of marriages fall apart, relationships break down, because men don't think that it's their job to understand what's happening to their partners and what's going on hormonally for them, something they absolutely have no control over. It is a physiological factor. And if you think how we educate people around childbirth, periods, all of that, why aren't we talking about the thing that women are going to be in for the predominance of their life, if you're assuming that a woman lives to the average age in the UK of 80 years old, that midlife point. And so you've also then got the challenges. A lot of women are having kids later into their 40s. They're now heading into their perimenopausal era as such. And there's just so many hormones flying around basically. And what that's leading to. And so typically, and I'm sure if I'd say to you, like, what thing do you associate physiologically when I say menopause? Like, what's the thing that or you've heard the rhetoric?
Periods. Yeah,
but like in terms of symptoms, like what people complain about, you hear. I think I'm having a mini one right now.
Hot flush.
Yeah.
And maybe some emotional.
Yeah. So those are going on. The hot flushes and the physiological symptoms, that a lot of that's coming later.
Okay.
One of the first things that women will notice, and again, this is not discussed necessarily in the mainstream, or the symptoms like hidden down the NHS website list, is their periods will start to fluctuate. They'll become really heavy, very difficult. And so as a manager in the workplace, when a woman's having to call in sick because she physically can't come into work because of the challenges of that. But that's really to be factored. And then the other factor physiologically is the impact on anxiety levels. So for me, the first thing was the periods, which in isolation, I just thought, well, that's strange. Like, what's going on? Why is that all of a sudden so different? And then it's, you have the investigations around that. They can't really help you much, really. Give you some medication for pain, can't stop the volume of flow, nothing. I know that's TMI. Well, for some women it will be, And if you have conditions like polycystic ovaries or endometriosis, which a lot of women do, incredibly. And then what I started to notice was anxiety. and overthinking, which is something I never struggled with before, and intrusive thoughts. And a lot of women will say, I feel like I'm not me anymore. I feel like I'm an alien in my body. I just feel like I've been taken over. Then you'll start to get potentially some of the weight gain. Then you start to feel, self-confidence drop. It's all these things. And in isolation, they all seem like they're isolated things going on. But when you put them together, but this for me started, and it went on for about 3 years before I got that first hot flush. And I went, huh. And then I started to do the research.
Yeah.
And then when I went down the rabbit hole and I started to educate myself, and then I realized about what the actual definition of it was and what I was like, I am perimenopausal. No way. How is this possible? I'm only in my late 30s. And then that's when I actually went down the route of actually becoming qualified as a menopause practitioner, because I couldn't believe this was information that as a woman, as a certified health coach that I am, I did not know about my own body. So how would men know?
Oh, yeah, we wouldn't.
How would you know?
No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't know. And then when we're seeing that in the workplace, or we're wondering why somebody's acting maybe a little bit out of character over time.
Or the menopause rage, like perimenopause rage is a real thing. They'll fly off the handle and have this outburst. But it's literally hormones taking over. And if anyone's got kids, if you think about that movie Inside Out, do you know the one I'm talking about with all the emotions and the stuff? And it's literally like, who's the little red guy, that Mr. Angry or whatever? And he just kicks off and he just blows a gasket. But that is literally what's going on, and the shame that you feel, and
why do you feel shame?
Well,
why would
not being able to, feeling like you can't manage your emotions, and just thinking like, I just feel like a crazy person.
It feels out of character.
You feel out of character.
Okay.
And as a woman, what's even more scary is if you don't understand what's happening to you, and that's the very scary place I was in. And it took my husband saying to me one day, it looks like it's a struggle for you to get out of bed every day. And me going, is it? Like, I just thought nobody noticed what was going on, but he noticed. And that's when I took myself off to the doctor. But unfortunately, and this is improving dramatically, but unfortunately, doctors, you go in, NHS, they've got the 10-minute slot to treat you, and you tell them you're sad and you're anxious, and they have to treat what you're telling them is wrong. So what they do is they give you antidepressants.
Yeah.
Now you're depressed, apparently, and anxious. It's funny because I went on those antidepressants for a year and it didn't really touch the sides with me, but actually what was going on was hormonal.
Interesting.
What I actually needed was the holistic support, understanding, and some HRT, hormone replacement therapy,
so
to actually top up those hormones that are doing this. And that's what HRT does. It just tops up your hormone levels.
So there might be women, I'm really conscious right now, there might be women watching this thinking, that's me. I'm feeling like that. I've been to the doctors. I've been given the antidepressants.
I'm not being heard. It's not making a difference.
So what, I think this is really important actually. What can they do right now with this little bit of information that you've just shared? Because it most likely is a light bulb moment for a few people.
What I'd recommend that you do, because it works well with the NHS and their time limitations if you can speak in their language. So actually go to the NHS website, type in menopause, get onto the page that talks about symptoms, etc. Start ticking off, okay, I've got that. What doctors are looking for, I can't speak for all doctors, but what they're looking for is the impact on your life day to day. And this is where the challenge lies, because a lot of us have got that view that we go into our doctor, we have a nice chat, and they tell us what they think. Whereas the structure that we're in right now is that we've got to go in firmly and advocate for what we need. Yeah. So we go in saying, I believe I'm perimenopausal because of X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But the next step is, this is how it's impacting my day-to-day life.
Yeah. Okay.
And these are the challenges I'm facing as a result, and how it's impacting me. And therefore, I wish to try HRT or whatever it is. That's the support I need.
Great.
So you have to be incredibly firm with the doctors and tell them what you need.
And are there organizations out there, maybe charities like Mind, for example, for, potentially wanting to talk through things? Are there organizations out there specifically for women who might be going through something like this, don't feel they're necessarily got the confidence to go back to the doctor because of the stage that they're at? I mean, are there places they can reach out to?
There's a lot of fantastic organizations out there who are campaigning and raising awareness. Like, your best place to look that stuff up is on social media, to actually do a good search on social media and follow, resources or key people, podcasts, etc., that can help you. But it is really, and menopause is a greater conversation. You've got a lot of celebrities that have brought a lot of attention to it. Davina McCall being one of them. She was the one who first got me thinking about, okay, interesting. So yes. But what I've found most effective is actually using the NHS language with the doctors and actually using what is prescribed and prescriptive on their website to be able to say to them, this is what I need. But yes, online there are charities and places that will be able to say, here's a template of what you can say. Because that's the biggest thing, is women feeling gaslit.
Yeah.
Either in the workplace, by their managers, by the doctors, and all gaslighting is coming down to not being heard. People are like, I'm not trying to gaslight you. Well, you've not heard me, so you're not trying to help me find a solution here.
So how could a manager in a workplace, because I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable asking one of my colleagues.
Absolutely.
Are you perimenopause or going through the menopause?
Yes, definitely do not do that with our HR present.
So how could I support? What are the things to look out for and then subtly support?
Yeah. Well, as a manager, I would like to assume that you have made yourself aware of the various policies that your organization have in place to support, just as much as you would support someone who's disabled, potentially who has neurodiversity, whatever that looks like. So find out, does your current employer company have a menopause policy?
Yeah, really good.
This is something that's going through right now in law. Like, it technically falls under health and safety.
Okay. Why? Because there'll be health and safety managers watching this. So I'm just curious.
So it will fall under the Health and Safety in the Workplace Act. Okay. That's where it's kind of currently sitting as a recommended policy rather than a legal. But what I'd like and hope to see is that will come through as a legal requirement.
Yeah.
Because it is a health condition. So just as any other health condition needs to be factored under health and safety, that should be too. So then we'll understand what currently is at play. Do we have a menopause policy? If we don't, like, as managers, do we need to get together? Do we need one? Do we need to flag this with HR? Maybe not. Maybe you do. I don't know. And actually, what support and structure is in place? Because, when it comes to managing anxiety or, physical challenges, maybe women are having incredibly heavy bleeds monthly, and then it's putting the parameters in place, or permissions, and not making it difficult for them to work from home, or for those few days or whatever it is, or if they're needing a quieter space to work, or, expecting that they have to be in a big open plan office with loads of noise and things that are making them anxious, just as you would factor anybody else's limitations.
Yeah.
It's using your common sense.
Which isn't common to everybody.
And actually, you don't even have to say a lot. You just have to listen and understand what the challenges are, coming back to what we spoke about at the very beginning, to see, okay, well, how can I support that? Not to be like, let's just check. How old are you? Are you perimenopausal? Right. Okay. Well, we've got this policy over here. It's just like, just be a human being.
Yeah, it's good.
Just as anybody else would be overwhelmed and challenged. It's just something to have on your radar as a manager.
So it's more, am I right in thinking actually it's more about being aware of perimenopause and menopause, but actually focusing on the things around it? So the increased anxiety potentially, the fact that they might need some extra time off if they're feeling ill. It's not necessarily to bring it up and go, oh, you must be menopausal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually just to be mindful of it and just then support as you would anybody else.
Just as you would with those things. Anyone else that is struggling with anything.
That's good.
If you've got an employee struggling with chronic fatigue syndrome or anything, you would put provisions in place. Isn't that what health and safety is for? Someone was pregnant, they would have a certain work chair space. HR has to come and assess the desk space, don't they? I remember them doing that for people, how big are they?
And the monitor it to be at eye level and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
So how do we assess something that's hidden?
Like hidden disabilities.
Mental health. Applies to all. So I think actually this is just a wider conversation about how you assess the unseen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Because actually that does tie it, and we speak about it a lot in class, it's the unseen. Somebody comes in, you think, you think you can trust them to do their job. And then, because for years they've been independable, but actually what you don't know is what's else is going on in their life. The fact that actually they might have been distracted when they were doing a task and not completed a task correctly because they were distracted or the stress was so high in their life. Then they've gone home and you've thought, oh, I can trust their work because they're a great person. But you don't know what's going on in their life, which is why.
And that just all comes back to being a human, because as a leader, you know your team, you're connected, you have an understanding of what their lives involve and entail. Like, it's your human responsibility as a leader. You don't have to get into the nitty gritty of everything, but you have to understand what's going on for people.
Yeah. So really, I think we've come full circle.
We have.
That actually, regardless of what somebody's going through, it's just having that increased self-awareness, which then gives you a greater awareness of other people and being there for people. And as you said, just being a human.
Absolutely. And just something I do want to touch on, because it's such a hot topic right now, as much as menopause, is neurodiversity, because that is something that a lot of people and managers will be now having to factor these policies around neurodiversity and what that looks like. And actually the positive out of that is that companies are seeking to employ people with neurodiversity. And I imagine especially in the sector, because we know now the creative brain and the way people think, and you want that diverseness of team just as much as you would want male and female perspectives.
Yeah, really good.
And how, single people, married people, working moms, you want all of that melting pot of perspectives, don't you? But when you think about neurodiversity, there's a lot of people saying right now, well, why is it that so many people are now getting diagnosed? Well, actually, that's not the case. There are no more people. It's just that we're now actually recognizing 51% of the population. And so the complexity with the perimenopause piece is that a lot of women, because of the hormone fluctuations, because estrogen helps mask a lot of the neurodiverse symptoms, things like ADHD, autism.
Okay.
And so when that estrogen hormone's dropping, that's when it starts to become even more difficult for women, and the anxiety surges, etc. So, and that was the challenge for me, was unpicking what's perimenopause and what's ADHD in this situation for me, and how that looks, because I can tell you categorically, with what I have been through and had to advocate for myself from a health perspective, with the qualifications and the knowledge I have over the past 5 years, I would have not survived in a corporate working environment. I would have likely burnt out. I would have left the workplace. And that's the reality, is that you're losing people. And so many women are leaving the job force because they can't manage that, or their confidence drops. And it's how you manage all that. So really, again, it's just coming back to understanding that high level of the pros of neurodiversity, because there are so many pros to it. But is that impacting your workforce, women particularly, especially if they're moving in that perimenopausal phase, because it exacerbates so much more?
Yeah.
And actually clinically now, I was reading a study the other day that actually talks about how, because what I couldn't understand was why I was in my mid-30s and I was experiencing, which is why it took me so long to work out it was perimenopause. And I read a study this year that talked about, actually, if you're neurodiverse, your perimenopause hits you earlier, usually your mid-30s, and it hits you like a freight train because of the hormone fluctuation. And I went, that makes sense. That makes complete sense as to why it hit me. And then I felt so alone, and I felt so much shame around it, and thinking, is it just me? What's going on here? So actually, it's all these factors. So now think about a woman who is maybe had kids, mid-30s. She's potentially ADHD, neurodiverse. Yeah. Maybe she's not. But now she might be starting on her perimenopause journey. She's got young kids at home. Maybe she's got elderly parents. She's working full time. She's managing the mental load at home. She's got mum guilt. Yeah. She's got hormones doing crazy things that she can't control. She feels like she's losing it.
Can't mask anymore.
Can't mask anymore. She feels like she's losing it. She feels like she's failing. She's not doing her job properly. She's not doing her life properly. her marriage is failing because, her testosterone's dropped off a cliff, so she has no sex drive, and now her husband feels neglected or whatever. I'm painting a picture.
Yep.
Maybe I just painted me. No, but it's consider all these things that are flying around a woman's head in this period of potentially early 30s through to 50, 55, 60. It's a lot of stuff, isn't it?
That is a lot of stuff. And I think especially for male partners who haven't got a clue about any of that going on and will form their own beliefs behind that, but they'll form their own beliefs of the behavior they're observing of their female partner.
My wife's not interested in me anymore. She doesn't love me. I feel neglected.
Yeah.
Many men will connect through physical contact. That's how they feel loved. But women need the emotional connection to connect with their partners.
Even more so.
But if they're not being seen, if they're not being heard on that side of things, well, they're not going to connect. And this is why so many marriages will break down in this time frame.
Yeah. So it really comes down to, if you're a male manager, leader in the workplace, being more aware of this.
Be more human.
And being kinder.
Being more human.
Being more human.
Have a conversation.
And just, And if you're a male partner, again, being aware of it and thinking about if your partner's not reached that stage of life yet, how you might have those early conversations or just practice actually even before the conversations, just practice being there to listen, not always coming up with solutions.
Yeah, don't hit them with the solutions.
Don't hit those solutions.
My husband and I just have a joke. He's like, am I listening or am I giving? And I'm like, you're just listening right now.
Yeah, we do that. Do you want me to fix it or do you want me just to listen? Which might be a bit arrogant, but 90%
of the time, I bet she just wants you to listen.
Just listen. And actually, Sophie has said to me recently, since she knows that that's how my mind works, she'll actually say to me sometimes, I'm telling you this because I want you to come up with a solution. I'm there. I've got it all written down.
Yeah.
But other times it's just a case of practicing to listen. And often, more times than not, that's enough. Feels a lot better.
Connection.
And I've just listened. Yeah.
And it all comes down to the human factor, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. So, Wendy, if people want to connect with you, because I know that you do go into corporations and you deliver courses.
We do workshops. A lot of it's just the basic education about menopause and what that looks like, but also just health in the workplace because, I know we've spoken all about women today, but, there's so many elements for men that need to be managed. And I do feel very sorry for men as a woman. It's very hard for you to manage us hormonally unstable. But it's so much. But imagine being in our brains for a minute.
That's all right.
But I think it's really just that conversation between us and understanding the complexities on both sides and thinking, well, what would that feel like?
That's really good.
If I was indoctrinated from a young age to be the breadwinner, or how that would feel if it was just that it's societal expectation that you have the babies. See it from both sides. It's anything, walk a mile in someone else's shoes. So it's that. So it's just understanding both sides of things, healthy habits, what that looks like and the conversations around that. But then I also do a lot of one-to-one coaching with people, women particularly, obviously, and really just helping that, once they've hit burnout, okay, how do we coach out of that? What do we do? What are the frameworks, infrastructure? A lot of it's just awareness, understanding what's happening to them physiologically, helping them prepare for those conversations with their doctor and actually coaching them through what holistic support they can put in place in their life, systems, processes to actually help them manage when the masking's dropped and, they're struggling with the day-to-day. Yeah, so I know I always joke that, therapists will listen, whereas I'll listen, but then we'll actually take some action. We'll actually fix some stuff.
Right. So how can people connect with you?
So the best thing to do is hop on over to my website. So that's thrivingwomenproject.com because we're all about that holistic working on the project of you. And it's ongoing. We're always looking to work on ourselves and what that looks like. But there you'll find tools and resources around health, life, business and career. And
you got LinkedIn profile?
I do. That's under my personal name. So that's Wendy Griffith UK and then Thriving Women Project has its own business page as well.
Excellent. Great. Wendy, thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for listening to, I'm going to give you a test now. What were those 3 hormones again?
No idea. I shouldn't, that was the wrong answer. But yeah, it's really helpful. I found it really helpful. I know that a lot of the guys and ladies will have found it really useful as well. So thank you very much. I can't wait to do another one.
Thank you for asking the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
We'll do one again on neurodiversity, I think, because that will be a very interesting one in aviation. So probably a preview for people. In aviation, I don't think we've done neurodiversity particularly well, especially in the flying world. So I think that would be an interesting topic to unpack a little bit as well.
Absolutely.
So look forward to having you on again.
Thank you very much.